theCUBE presents On the Ground.
Hello everyone, welcome to this special exclusive On the Ground CUBE coverage here at Oracle's headquarters. I'm John Furrier, the host of the CUBE. I'm here with my guest, Brad Tewksbury, who's the Senior Director of Business Development for the Big Data team at Oracle. Welcome to the On the Ground.
Thank you, John, good to be here.
So big data, Brad, you've been in this industry for a long time. You've seen the waves come and go. Certainly at Oracle, you've been here for many, many years.
Yep.
Oracle's transforming as a company, and you've been watching it play out.
Yep.
What is the big thing that's most notable to you that you could illustrate that kind of highlights the Oracle transformation in terms of where it's come from? Obviously the database is the crown jewel, but this big data stuff that you're involved in is really transformative and getting tons of traction. Get the cloud machine kind of tying in. Is this kind of a seminal moment for Oracle? Share some thoughts there.
Yeah, I think there's many, if you look at the data management path from going back to client server to where we are today, data's always played a pivotal role, but I would say now every customer is going through this decision-making process where they're saying, aha, data, I'm being disrupted by all different companies. Before it was, okay, I got my data in a database and I do some reporting on it and I can run my business, but it wasn't like I was going to be disrupted by some digital company tomorrow.
Because the apps and the databases were kind of tied together.
They were tied together, and things just didn't move as fast as they do today. Now it's in these digital-only companies, they realize that data is their business, right? I think one of the pivotal things that we've been doing some studies with MIT is that like 84% of the S&P value of some of these companies comes from companies that have no assets, right? Just data. So like Uber doesn't own any taxis. Airbnb doesn't own any hotels yet. They've got massive valuation. So companies are starting to freak out a little bit and they're starting to say, oh my God, I got to leverage my data. So the seminal moment here is saying, how do I monetize my data? Before it wasn't this urgency. Now there's a sense of like, I got to do something with this data. But the predicament they're in is, especially these legacy companies, they've got silos of stuff that's not talking to each other. It's all on different versions and different vendors. And
well, Oracle's always been in the database business, so you made money by creating software to store data.
Right.
Now it sounds like there's a business model for moving the data around. Is that kind of what I'm getting at here? So it's not just storing the data, software to store the data, it's software to make the data
it's like three things. I think it's three things. It's ingesting the data, right, from news sources that we outside of the company, so sensors and social media, right? That's one thing. Secondly, it's then managing the data, which we've always done. And then the third thing is analyzing it. So it's that whole continuation. And then what's happened here is the management platform has expanded. It's gone from just a relational base to this whole NoSQL world and this Hadoop world, which we completely support. And we're by no means is this relational a zero-sum game, right? Where it's relational or nothing at all. We've expanded the whole data management platform to meet the criteria of whatever the application is. And so these are the three data management platforms today. Who knows what's going to come tomorrow? We'll support that as well. But the idea is choose the right platform for the application. And what it's really becoming about is applications, right? And this data management stuff is obviously table stakes, but how do I make my applications dynamic and real time based on what I have here?
4 years ago, CUBE audience will remember we did the CUBE in Hadoop world, that's called back then before it became Strata Hadoop and O'Reilly and Cloudera show. Mike Olson and Ping Lee at Excel Party said, oh, we have a big data fund. So they thought there was going to be a tsunami of apps. It never really happened. Certainly Hadoop didn't become as big as people had thought, but yet analytics rose up. I mean, analytics became the killer app. But now we're beyond analytics, the use of data for insights. Where are the apps coming from now? You had Rocana here, we had Disco providing some solutions. Where do you guys see the apps coming from? Obviously Oracle has their own set of apps, but outside of Oracle, where are the apps?
So it's an interesting phenomenon, right? It's everyone thought Hadoop's the next great wave, and the reality is, if you go talk to customers, they're like, yeah, I've heard of Hadoop, but what do I do with it? So it's like apps is what's going to drive this whole stack forward. And to that end, the number one thing that people are looking for is 360 view of customer. They all want to know more about customer. I was talking with the customer who represents the equivalent of the tax bureau of their country, and they instead of putting the customer, it's the taxpayer or the customers at the center, and all the different places that you pay taxes. So they want to have one view of you as the taxpayer. So whether you're a public entity, private, the number one thing that the apps that people are looking for is show me more about customer. If I'm a bank, a retailer, they want to cross-sell, and they want to do that. That's the number one app. In telcos, they want to know about networking. How do I get this network? I want to understand what's going on here so I can better support my support center. But secondary to that, we're in this kind of a holding pattern now. What are the next set of apps? And so there's a bunch of startups here in Silicon Valley that are thinking they have the answer for that, and we're partnering with them, and we're opening up a cloud marketplace to bring them in, and we'll let customers decide who's going to win this. But
talk about Rokana and their value proposition. They're here talking to us today.
Yeah.
What's the deal with Rokana?
So Rokana is an interesting play. What they have found is that customers. One of the ways they talk about themselves is they offer a data warehouse to IT. So if I'm the IT guy, I want to go in and have basically a pool of all kinds of log analysis. How are my apps running? Do I need to tune the apps? How's the network running? They want like a one bucket of, how can I better, how can my operation perform better? So what we've seen from customers is they've come to us and said, oh, okay, what do you got in this new space of Hadoop that can do that? Look at log analysis and all kinds of app performance from a Hadoop perspective. They were one of the people, that first persons to answer that. So they're having great success finding out where security breaches are, finding out where the network latencies are, just better, like I said, looking at logs and how the things could run better. So so that's what they're answering for customers, basically improving IT functions, right? Because what's happening is a line of business people are in charge, right? And they're saying, I no longer want to have to go to IT for everything. I want to be able to just, go to basically a data model and do my own analysis off this. I don't have to call IT for everything. So these guys are, in some ways trying to help that mantra. So.
Talk about WANdisco. What are they talking about here? How is their relationship with Oracle? They were speaking with us today as well. Yeah,
so there's in this big data world, what we're seeing a lot of is customers do a lot of what we call lab experiment. So they got all this data and they want to do lab experiments. Okay, great. So then they find this nugget of, okay, here's a great data model. We want to do some analysis on this. So let's turn it into a production app. Okay, then what do you do? How do you take it production? These are the guys that you would call. So they take it into an HA, high availability environment for you. And they give you, zero data loss, zero downtime to do that. One of the things that Oracle's, we're touting as a differentiator in our cloud is this hybrid approach, where you have, you can start out doing test dev in the cloud, bring it back on-prem, vice versa. They allow you to do that sync, that link between the cloud and on-prem. They also, we work today with Cloudera. We OEM them in our big data appliance. If the customer has Hortonworks, but they also want to work with our stuff, they're go between with that as well. So it's basically they're giving you that production ready environment that you need when in an HA world.
Brad, thanks for spending some time with us here on the ground. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm John Ferry. We're here exclusively on the ground at Oracle headquarters. Thanks for watching.